put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Oh, baby. Snowpocalypse. That's right, down here in the South Central area. Welcome back to the program. It is Hump Day. Hump Day, and wow. Let's just put it this way. I watched the grader get stuck in the middle of the road this morning as I dropped the dog down into the snow, and she disappeared. I mean, I don't know where she went. She was gone. I mean, literally like 12 inches of snow overnight. It took me 3 hours to get home last night. Let's just put it that way. 3 hours to get home from Anchorage yesterday, which is normally an hour trip. And today, well, it looks like a good day to work from home because I literally watched the grader get stuck in the middle of the cul-de-sac this morning as he was trying. He finally got it unstuck, but I mean, wow. It is just like, wow. And they have closed school for the whole South Central area, the Matsu and the Anchorage area. I don't know how much. I said 12 inches. Somebody in the chat room just said he's guessing closer to 16. He lives a few miles from my place here. And I mean, I don't know. It was a lot of snow. Let's just put it that way. It is a lot of snow. And thank goodness, for remote work. I guess the one silver lining of the pandemic is everybody figured out that remote work is possible. And hopefully you have that option. And it's still snowing. I mean, it's still going. Not like it was last night, but it's still snowing, and it's supposed to continue through later today. According to the National Weather Service, it's supposed to continue on. So, the Snowpocalypse 2022. I mean, who out there was dreaming of a white Christmas? This is all your fault. I'm just saying. I'm dreaming of a white. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was like. So anyway, welcome to the program. Good morning. How are you? Oh man. And I realized the one thing that I did not get done that was on my to-do list yesterday was to turn on the submission forms for the 5 days of Christmas. God, I'm a bad radio host. This is what happens when you are, this is, anyway, all bad all the time. To later on this morning, in fact, as soon as we get done with the show, I will be going on and putting all that back on and turning it all back on and putting it together. The 5 days of Christmas. And you might be asking yourself, what is that? Well, the 5 days of Christmas is what we're calling this contest that we're doing with our friends over there at Satellite West. Satellite West has been kind enough to provide us with 5 bivvy sticks. And we are going to be giving those 5 bivvy sticks away starting a week from tomorrow. So you'll have a full 8 days to sign up for a chance to win. And I think we're just going to do random drawing. I mean, I may pick somebody out of the blue as best caller of the day or something. But if you want a chance to win, and you can only enter once, because I'll be filtering out duplicate, signups or whatever. But if you'd like to win, then you'll just go to my website at michaeldukeshow.com and you'll see the Satellite West banner at the top of the page. Now, it's not turned on right this second. I know, I shouldn't be promoting it when I don't have it on. I apologize. I was planning on doing it last night, but it took me 3 hours to get home, all right? So I'm going to do it here right after the show this morning. So later today, you can go to michaeldukeshow.com and you can just sign up. You can sign up to win, and I'll do some random drawings from the signups. Maybe one day we'll do best Christmas memory or something. I mean, I don't know. This is freeform, baby. This is not some big multi-megalithic radio corporation bean counter making a decision. This is me flying by the seat of my pants, which is what we love around here. This is what happens when you have a low-budget radio show. You can do whatever the hell you want. So get signed up to win, and we're going to be giving away a free bivvy stick every day starting next Thursday until my final day of broadcast for 2022. Which will be my final day of broadcast for 2022. I keep having to look at the calendar. You think I'd have it memorized by now. My final day of broadcast for 2022 will be the 21st of December, which is 2 weeks from today. That will be my final day of broadcast for 2022. And then I'm off. I'm off for Christmas Eve, the whole week between Christmas and New Year's, and we'll be back on January the 2nd, which is Monday, January the 2nd, for 2023. All right? So, I think that it's exactly. Yes, this show is where Michael Dukes makes the rules, and your points don't matter. That's exactly what this is, just like that. So, in just a little bit, starting later on this morning, noon today, whatever, go to michaeldukeshow.com and get signed up for the 5 days of Christmas, courtesy of our friends at Satellite West, and this the giveaway, the 5 days of Christmas, giving away 5 bivvy sticks, courtesy of our friends at Satellite West, your local radio station, and the Michael Dukes Show. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Okay, today is, in fact, Pearl Harbor Day. Thank you, Greg. That was actually next on my list, Greg. I mean, people, we're like a one mind in the chat room here. I mean, they're always, like, as I say things, people are actually saying the same thing in the chat room as it coming out of my mouth. It's funny to watch, but today is, in fact, Pearl Harbor Day, and we want to remember all those brave veterans who died on a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, a day that will live in infamy. And we never want to forget that. Never want to forget that. So big reminder. Okay, what else we got? Okay, I guess we can dive into some of the headlines here. Hashtag first world problems when you cannot find your mouse because you have so many screens. All right. We talked about the school closures. We haven't talked about, okay. So recounts. Let's get into the recounts, shall we? The Division of Elections is officially going to conduct 2 recounts into 2 legislative races after the candidates in those races have requested them. Now, only one could have real significant impacts on the makeup of the legislature, and it's unlikely to change it in the second. The one, of course, is House District 15, which is the race between Tom McKay and Denny Wells. Initial vote counts had showed McCabe with a 4-vote lead. And that expanded after the final tabulation and the final certification. That had expanded to 7 votes. Now that's still well within the recount threshold. Generally, recounts, if they are within 0.5%, the state will do a recount free of charge at the request of the candidate. After the tabulation, McKay was ahead of Wells by just 0.1%, or 7 votes. Now, that's the race that could make a difference, because that could tip the balance inside the state house from a Democrat, from a pretty much an even split. I mean, even though we elected 21 Republicans and 19 Democrats or others, Democrats or independents, right? 21, but of course we know that Louise Stutes does not identify as a Republican. I mean, she identifies as a Republican, but she doesn't play one on TV. I don't know how you want to say that, but Louise Stutes is not really a Republican. She runs as a Republican, but she has no intention of working with the Republicans. She's already said released a press release as the Speaker of the House, as the coalition, that they're continuing on, and it's going to be kumbaya. So that 21 really means nothing. So it's a 20-20 split, with Tom McKay being the victor in that race. Now, if the recount happens and somehow, some way, somewhere, Dunny Wells comes out of the blue and is able to recoup those 7 votes, and he becomes the victor in that race for House District 15, well, then it's game over, because then it's 21-19 the other way, right? I mean, Louise Stutes will be with the coalition majority, and Denny Wells will be that 21st vote that tips over, and there'll only be 19 Republicans who, well, are sticking together now. If that happens, you may see some other bodies, throw themselves in the water. Some other rats abandon the ship, so to speak, other than Louise Stutes. But as of right now, it is pretty much a 20-20 split. So that race could have a significant impact on what happens in legislative organization. We have no idea what's going to happen, but we're going to be watching it. The race where it doesn't really matter, and I tried to game this out a little bit. I tried to take a look at this from a different standpoint. I mean, how do we count some of these votes and some of these races and everything else? In the race for Senate District E, which is not the Senate District E that Mike Shower used to be part of. This is the new District E, which is in Anchorage, and this is the seat that's was being held by Roger Holland, and of course we know that Kathy Giessel came back to challenge that district. And we look at the initial results. The initial results show that the official results, the certified results, showed that Kathy Giessel came in with 33.6%. Roger Holland came in with 33.1%. And Rosalind Casey came in with 32.9% of the vote. So you may ask yourself, well, why demand a recount at all? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's a 3-way tie, right? 33.6% versus 33.1% versus 32.9%. It's all within a half a percentile of, the whole thing is a hot mess. So if Rosalind Casey, the Democrat who is asking for this challenge, somehow it gets a recount and is able to make up 31 votes. That's the difference between Rosalind Casey and Roger Holland, is 31 votes, which would lead me to believe, because the distance between Roger Holland and Rosalind Casey is 0.2 points, 0.2 points, that they would then have to get another 90 votes between Roger and Kathy Giessel, right? But if she's able to get those 31 votes, well, then maybe the ranked choice makeup changes, because maybe Roger's second place votes, if he does get eliminated, don't go to Kathy Giessel. Maybe they go to Rosalind Casey, or maybe they go nowhere, in which case it narrows the overall voting pool again, and they have to recalculate the percentiles. Casey could theoretically win, but she has to overcome those first 31 votes that she is currently behind Roger Holland. But you don't know if you can't. I mean, they've only got 2 points, 0.2%, not 2 points, 0.2% separating Rosalind Casey and Roger Holland. And again, 0.5% separating Roger Holland and Kathy Giesel. But if Holland was to be bumped out, his second place votes would then decide, who goes on in the race there. It's interesting to watch this ranked choice stuff in consequence. As I said earlier, in both races, the Division of Elections is going to pay for the cost of the recount. Under Alaska law, races with a margin of less than 20 voters or less than 0.5%, they will do so. The candidate who requests a recount will not incur any cost from the state to cover the cost of the recount. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes on. But it's something that we will be watching very, very closely. Very, very closely. I can't wait to get some details on it. All right. Let's see. I guess we could phone line open and talk about what you want to talk about, because I got some news. Alaska's top election administrator is set to retire this week. That's right. Gail Fanumii is stepping down. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion? I'd love to hear what you have to say. So I guess we'll open up the phones. How about that? 907-433-3150. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
So, should I answer this phone call? It says suspected spam from California. No, I'm not going to answer it. I didn't answer it, in fact. Good morning. Hello, my friends. Hello.
Hello, my pretties, and your little dog, too.
Whoa. I mean, whoa. All right. Come on. I'm trying to get the phone. What the actual hell is going on here? Come on. There we go. All right. Boom. All right. Thanks for calling the call-in line. No, I don't want to hear myself. Okay. Let me go over here. We'll get the web controls going. Mute that down so you can't hear that. Oh, good morning. It is, I've reached the end of the year. And as you could tell, as we get closer to the end of the year and closer to that end of the year break, my concentration. I'm sorry, did I interrupt your conversation? It wasn't conversation. I'm sorry, did I break your concentration? I'm literally like shiny object squirrel man right around here because I'm getting to the point where I'm watching all this politics stuff and I'm just thinking, oof, man. No matter where you go, there you are. No matter what you do, you feel like you're climbing uphill. I mean, we may be falling forward, but we're still falling kind of thing. Anyway, and I just want to talk about other things this morning. I can't wait to take a look and talk to Mike Shower, because he and I have had a couple of conversations, but they've been pretty brief. I mean, off air, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings to the Shower Hour of Power this morning. I didn't have time to make coffee, so I resorted to my backup plan. Monster Energy drink. Not a sponsor, but should be. Should be. I got short timers. Yes, I have. That's exactly what it is. Thank you, Terry. I was trying to figure out that's exactly what it was. I got short timers, man. 2 more weeks, and then I'm off for 10 days, 12 days, or whatever. I guess I should count. How many days is that? I'm not I'm not going into work after. I go to the show and then I go back to bed. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days. Oh, 12 days, 12 whole days. Oh, yes. We're pretty much in tune with each other here. Hive mind, says Kevin McCabe. When I said that, Greg just spit out almost exactly what I was going to say right at the beginning there. All right. I need to wake up, more coffee. I'm getting dizzy already. Word of warning, be careful with the plastic shovels. The snowfall will overload them. I mean, that snow is thick and heavy out there. I mean, when I finally drove in, and I had to take 3 runs at the driveway last night to be able to get in, which is an unheard of thing. I mean, I'm usually can go anywhere, but I had to take 3 runs at the driveway to be able to make it up my short little driveway. And I could see where my son had shoveled earlier in the day. He'd literally shoveled it back down to almost the pavement again, but it didn't matter because we had 6 inches since oh man, it is a hot. All right. And never hear. I'm going out. If you never hear from me again, I have a steel plate in my arm, so a metal detector won't you find me, says Rick. Be careful, Rick. Yeah. No, it's going to take 2 weeks to shovel all that snow. All right. School. All right. Quit bragging about your snow, dang it. Oh, Bill is a little jealous because Bill wants to go snowmobiling. Sorry, Bill. I mean, it's one of the few times where you get to envy us. Usually we envy you down there. God damn, that is... All right, I gotta fix that. Every time I forget, I gotta I mean, even though I have it set at a perfect level, I have to readjust it. All right, Michael Luke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Let's do it. Well, hello. Hi, how are you? Welcome to Snowpocalypse 2022. The waning days of some little kids out there going, dear Lord, please make sure we have a white Christmas. And it's like, boom, yes, you get a white Christmas. Yes, Virginia, I will give you a white Christmas. Boom! That's what you get, what you pray for. That's what it's all right there. And that's what happened. I don't know. It's crazy stuff. All right, welcome back to the program, the Michael Duke Show. Coming up on tomorrow's program, just FYI, we're going to be talking with Representative Ben Carpenter, who is going to be joining us for his first post-election recap, analysis, AAR, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Representative Ben Carpenter is going to be joining us, and he's going to be talking about the organization of the House and the upcoming session and what he sees, in his opinion. On Friday, it's going to be Jeff Knox with the Firearms Coalition is going to be coming in and talking with us about, he just wrote an article about Walmart and how the Walmart shooting, that this was a gun-free zone, and there's just some analysis there. And it's a while since I talked to Jeff, who is the son of Neil Knox. I think for those of you who have been, are familiar with old ancient NRA history. And so we'll talk with Jeff Knox on Friday. Oh goodness, that's Friday. So we're not only we'll talk with Jeff Knox, we'll also talk with Chris Chang, and we'll talk with Willie Waffle. Friday's going to be a busy day. So anyway, and then of course later this morning we're talking with Mike Shower. It's all done. Okay. Somebody just said they're shaking their head at me. I don't know why. Whatever I said made them shake their head. It happens quite often when people talk to me is they shake their head. So don't feel bad about it. Number to call this morning if you want to sound off is 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. And my question before we went to break was, have you heard the good news? Have you heard the good news, my friends? Alaska's top election administrator is going to be retiring this week. The Division of Elections Director, Gail Fanumii, is going to have her last day on the job on Friday. She's been there since 2019. She was appointed by former Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer, and she has served as the state's election director, well, for almost, she started in 2008, then left in 2015, and then rejoined in 2019, and has been there ever since. So it's been 10 years, 12 years of the last 15 or so that she has been administering the elections here in the state of Alaska. And she is, she decided pretty quickly that she just, because it was just like announced yesterday. Meyer shared that Fanumii had decided to retire in an interview on Tuesday. Fanumii said later in the day that she would not be available for an interview on her decision until after the conclusion of the two legislative recount races, which are scheduled to take place today and tomorrow. Now, Meyer also announced his retirement from politics last year and was replaced by Lieutenant Governor Nancy Dahlstrom. He attributed Fanumii's departure to the toll of election misinformation that has weighed heavily on election officials since 2020. And then he lamented the fact about institutional knowledge and that we're losing all this knowledge and Nancy's leaving and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't buy into a lot of the rhetoric that went on around the 2020 thing. But I think that, again, in my opinion, the appearance of impropriety can be just as damaging as actual, problems and malfeasance. So I think that those things, I think that things should be straight and above board and transparent, and we should be addressing people's concerns instead of mocking them. And we should discuss it because, again, this is a cornerstone. Free and clear elections is a cornerstone of the Republic and the democratic voting system. I mean, that's just how it works. So I am all for having a free and honest and clear discussion about it, whether I agree with it or not. And I think Fanumii, I think there were some problems there. And I think, again, even the appearance of impropriety is problematic. So I, for one, welcome this. I, for one, am happy anytime a long-term bureaucrat leaves their position. Not against the person specifically, but I just believe that, when you've had people who have worked inside of a government bureaucracy for 20 years, that's probably enough, right? I mean, that's probably time for some new blood, time to get some new there, time to, get things in there and rolling on. Anyway, I for one am all in favor of it. All in favor. But what do you say? I mean, am I wrong here? Am I wrong about this? I don't know. You guys can decide. What other stories did I have up here, friend? We already talked about all the schools are closed. We talked about that. The recount, the general election, and that's it. Unless you guys really want to talk about all this stuff that's going on in Anchorage. This battle of wills between the mayor, the administration, and the borough assembly, the municipal assembly in Anchorage, it's just insane. I mean, this is like a tug of war from hell, right? That goes on inside of the Anchorage assembly. And it wasn't helped. I mean, I thought that in this last election cycle, last year, that we might see a little more clarity in, after Mayor Bronson got elected and everything else, that maybe we'd see some changes on the assembly that would at least bring bring it more back into balance so that there was more of an even split. But it's just gotten worse. I mean, everything that the mayor wants to do, or everything that the assembly wants to do, the opposing side, whatever, they stand in contravention of it, no matter what. Now, maybe some things will change now that, although I doubt it, Austin Quinn Davidson has announced that she's not going to run for re-election. She was the acting mayor, remember that, after Berkowitz left. And also, of course, Forrest Dunbar is now out of city politics because he's a senator. He is now a senator in the state legislature. And so, but does it change anything else in the? I don't know. Now, of course, for those of you who don't know, we're now getting into the election season for the Anchorage Assembly, because the actual election itself takes place in April. And so we're already seeing stories and interviews going up of people who are talking about running for the race. I mean, you'd think we'd all be tired of it. And you think that they would be smart and run the same race at the same time as all the other elections, but no, Anchorage has got to be different. So they are holding their assembly races in April. And they've got something like 7 of the 11 seats are up for re-election. 7 of them. I guess there's a real opportunity here. If you really want to get into it, there's a real opportunity to to change the alignment of the assembly, or change the flavor of what you've got going on in the assembly. But I mean, who knows? And what happens, with the whole, are people going to be confused by the whole voting thing? I just don't even know. But yeah, that's the other story, is the Anchorage Assembly override Mayor Bronson's vetoes of the budget items. They produced the largest budget in the history of the city. And he vetoed a portion of it, about $1.2 million, for the homeless services of Brother Francis's shelter. And they decided to override it and give it to the shelter anyway. Now, the shelter had said, the shelter had said that they have no intention of expanding their capacity, and yet the description says, the description of the disbursement of $1.2 million basically said that it was for expanding the capacity, and that was part of the problem here. But it was, anyway, you could go read the article in the ADN and it'll tell you all about it. But the bottom line is it's a shoving match, a he said, she said, back and forth between the assembly and the mayor. And I know that there's demagogues and hardcores on both sides of this issue, but at some point you got to be like, dude, guys, seriously, just stop the fighting. Just stop the fighting. And I think I think that there's a great opportunity in this upcoming election to swing the balance of the assembly. And I'm not talking about swinging it back, swinging it all the way to the right, I'm just like, can we just bring some balance in there? Can we just bring some kind of counterbalance to what's been going on? And we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. All right. But I guess we're up at the break. That's it. And we'll take your calls and see what you guys have to say if you want to sound off. Phone lines are open. One final segment before Mike Shower joins us. The Michael Luke Show. Cops of Radio. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Michael Luke Show.
What is that? Common sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay. There will be no balance, says Michael. Michael Beck. He said, lol. Total opposite pole. There will be no balance. I mean, I would just like to see it come more back into equity, instead of, raging liberal, progressive values on it. Can we just at least edge it back towards the middle? That would be my question. GCI is on top of their game this morning. Having a hard time? Am I lagging? I got the fastest thing GCI could possibly pull together. I can't. I haven't set up the Starlink yet because I'm getting reports from all my friends who got Starlink that it's good, but it drops, and you can't have the drops. They said it'll work and then it'll go offline for 40 seconds or a minute or something, in the hour. So I as much as I want to go full Starlink, I probably won't be able to until they stabilize it, put some more satellites in the constellation, because it's got to be solid for what I'm doing. Not the GCI is solid, but it's more solid. I can't have a 40-second blackout to the radios, stations and everything else. So, which I don't get. You guys may get. You guys may suffer for some blackouts, but I'm prioritizing the signal because I can do that. I'm prioritizing the signal to my codex box to the radio stations, if that makes sense to you. So, but Starlink is in the middle of launching more satellites, and they're supposed to have another, 30% in the constellation here in the near future. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Michael Beck also said, balance totally the opposite. You would think that they'll just double down on their own stupidity. Yeah. There'll be no balance. I don't know what that means. Unless it was actually Beano's, which, who doesn't love some Beano's, The left might temporarily be content if they continue to move the middle temporarily. There's an awful lot of space junk up there, says Mike. Well, yeah, but so? They're eventually going to have to go up there and start scrubbing the skies, right? They're eventually going to have to go up there. I can't remember how many pieces of space, it's hundreds of thousands of pieces of space junk, right? And as we put more and more technology and it gets better and better, we're going to need more low Earth orbit and high Earth orbit satellites and everything else. They're going to have to figure out a way to go up there and, and Swiffer the whole thing. It's going to have to happen eventually. And either that or they're going to have to force it down to the atmosphere so it burns up in the atmosphere. But one way or the other, they're going to have to do something. That's just the way it is. I think we don't have an Emerald's dream of smell-o-vision. Starlink is launching more satellites. Yes, that's what I said. Sorry, I'm just going. Now I'm scrolling backwards. You said I used the word snowmobiling, snow machining, snowmobiling. I know snow machining is like an Alaskan thing, but we always called it seems like that we called snow machines. We called snowmobiles snow machines all the time in my house. That was not a given. But when we were talking about the activity of it, it was snow machining or snowmobiling. Either one for us was kind of universal in our household. We called the snow machines. We didn't call them snowmobiles. We called them snow machines. But the act of snow machining, we could call either snow machining or snowmobiling. I don't know. So, hey, third generation Alaskan here. What are you going to do? We do what mom and dad and grandma and grandpa did. And I think it was interchangeable at that point. I do have to laugh when talking about snow machining, and people and things are like, snow machining? What do you mean? Well, snow machining, riding a snow machine. Oh, you can ride a snow machine? I'm just there to make snow. No, that's not what it is. It was, ski-dooing. Yeah, everybody else. When ski-doo becomes a verb, that's when it's sledding. I'm going sledding. And you're like, what? All right. Well, we're 40 seconds out. So, I don't know. Oh, I do see a little logo there. Your connection is unstable. Good God almighty. I've got a 2 gig connection. How can it be unstable? Everyone else in the house is asleep. The whole cul-de-sac is dark. All right. Sorry. Just let me rant for a minute. Come on, vacation. All right, folks, here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like and share. Let's do our thing, and let's get to it. Yeah, that's not something you'd see every day. Wanted, satellite Swiffer pilot. We were just talking about Starlink in the chat room because, here I am on GCI, been a GCI customer for years, got the fastest service that they possibly offer, and my stuff still staggers and stutters sometimes for the listeners online. And everyone's like, well, get Starlink. And anyway, it led to the conversation about space junk and how the atmosphere, the low Earth atmosphere, it's full of stuff and everything else. And I said, they're eventually going to have to Swiffer that all up, which I know is kind of a funny thing, but I don't know. I'm talking here, guys. Swiffer, pilot, wanted. Space Swiffer. You imagine putting that on your resume? I was a space Swiffer pilot. That's what I did. Run around and Swiffered up all the stuff in space. Hundreds of thousands of stuff up there. All right, one final segment here before we jump back into it with State Senator Mike Shower, who is definitely not a space Swiffer pilot, but is in fact a state senator and a commercial pilot for something out there. Anyway, we're going to I got phone lines open. What are you guys doing? Why aren't you calling? What's going on? I think everybody's got short timers at this point. Somebody mentioned earlier that maybe I had some short timer disease, which I would not disagree. I'm ready to take the vacation and just put all the politics behind me for a couple weeks. But I think everybody's there, which is why. By the way. Remember that that final week of before Christmas, because Christmas is on Saturday, Sunday. It's not Sunday, right? It's Sunday. It is Sunday. So Christmas is on a Sunday. But that final week, we really don't do politics on the program in that final week. The couple 3 days leading up to Christmas, we just talk about Christmas memories, favorite Christmas movies. I'll probably do what I did last year, which was like top Christmas movies and top Christmas, music. And I promise I will not be playing Mariah Carey. The Mariah Carey's, the memes against the Mariah Carey song, which is what All I Want for Christmas, or what is the. Anyway, I can't remember. Anyway, the memes against the Mariah Carey song are strong. But we'll be spending that last week just talking about non-political. I'm sure something will sneak in there. But for the most part, we'll be sharing Christmas recipes and we'll be sharing ideas and holidays and memories. And that's probably one of my funnest times of the year is those final 3 days before the Christmas vacation. It's kind of like a countdown to Christmas. Plus, on top of that, we will also be giving away a bivy stick courtesy of our friends of Satellite West every day for the last 3 days of that week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we'll actually be starting giving away those bivy sticks starting a week from tomorrow here on the program. And you'll be able to go to my website at michaeldukeshow.com later today to get signed up. But it won't just be signups where I draw the name from. I might just randomly pick a caller who has a really good call, and I'd be like, you are a winner. You're all winners, but you specifically, caller, are a winner of today's 5 Days of Christmas contest for the Vivies. I just might pick it out because this is where the rules are made up and the points don't count. Well, the rules are made up by me and the points don't count. So. All right. Mike Shower is going to be joining us here in just a few moments, and we'll be checking in with him. And it'll be the first time, I think, on air officially that we have had a recap with him since the election. Because let's face it, as we look what's happening in the legislature, and currently the makeup of the Senate, and now, of course, potentially what's going to be happening in the House, we're not full, I'm not full of excitement about that. Let's see what you have to say. Let's go over to the phones and start over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Mark in Fairbanks.
Good morning, Mark. What's on your mind?
Just a couple of things. Seeing how you mentioned elections, I was going to say, you've probably heard, it seems like a lot of people heard this, but one, the documentary 2000 Mules. So that totally documents the election fraud around the nation. And that mainly focuses on people who were mules carrying phony ballots, like dozens at a time, and putting them in the drop box. They've been videotaped, plus they got cell phone evidence, and they could see that the same people, or at least the people with the same cell phone, would go in one, we'll say in a 10-mile area, they'd go to 10 different drop boxes, all in the same evening or same morning or same day. And then to top it off, they also can link them to these different like nonprofit agencies. They would go there and they were places that were helping to like distribute something to do with elections, or distribute or pick up or collect the ballots. They would go there and then they would leave, and then they'd go to these 5 or 6 or 10 different drop boxes. That happened in probably 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more states. And of course, it happened in the battleground states. Completely documented. Anybody can see it. 2000 Mules by Dinesh D'Souza, something like that. The guy's name is Dinesh D'Souza. So you might have seen that. Then, secondly, the other evidence is by Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. He has a team of computer scientists, people who are professionals in the field, and they've gone through as much as they possibly can all the computer evidence that they are able to get. I haven't listened to them in a while, so I can't remember exactly everything they do. But he has professionals, and they go around and they evaluate all this stuff. And guess what? There's cheating. They can pretty much tell that, yeah, there's definitely cheating going on in the computer systems through, and even right. One of the things they're saying, how, none of these Dominion computers and all this stuff connect to the internet. That's a complete lie. They can all be connected and hacked. But anyway, so the evidence there for anybody to go see it themselves. Okay, yeah. Enough of that. So last thing, then I get off the phone.
Okay.
Last thing is that I guess it was on Tucker Carlson, but our infamous Senator Murkowski, the darn rhino Democrat that she is, she's already going to saying that she supports and sides with Biden about the whole illegal immigration, making all these illegal immigrants, many that can pour over the border, making them citizens. She's already stated that she supports that and she's for that. She's so wonderful.
Well, I mean,
Anyways, that's my comment.
I appreciate it, Mark. I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if the Murkowski thing, I don't think is a real surprise. I mean, this is not shocking to those of us that have been fighting against her for years. Not shocking with this. But I think that the problem is, of course, is that what we're seeing is that Alaska has become more and more moderate, more and more purple, and that's kind of embraced. As far as the discussion on the elections, as I said, I am not convinced 100% by what I've seen, and I have not seen the Dinesh D'Souza thing, but I have seen some of the comments, and I've read some of the backing and the stats and some of the things that I got going on. Here's my thing: whether you believe it or not, and I know a lot of people do believe it. I'm one of the ones that's skeptical but open-minded. And then I know there's people on the other side who are just closed-minded. No, nothing happened. It was all perfect. Again, the problem is that any perception is reality. So any perception of problems or fraud or, grifting or whatever you want to say, they deserve a hearing, because you don't want people to lose faith in their institutions. And I agree. I think that things can be problematic, and you can't just ignore people and say, well, you don't know anything. Just step off and go into the corner. Integrity, transparency is important. We should be focusing on those things, because that's what the whole thing that we're dealing with. We talk about how the economy is based basically. The economy is basically based on just the faith of the people, right? That's what an economy is based on. Well, the same thing is true in the Republic. I mean, the whole thing is based on the faith of people and the faith in their communities and their governments and things like that. And when you knock out one of those pillars, like you knock out their faith in government or elections or the judiciary, you start to see some shakiness going on. We're already at a low ebb when it comes to trust in government. That's no secret. That's been going on. That's been going on for years. That there is that the people don't trust their government. But now you're looking at potentially a lack of trust in the electoral system, a lack of trust in the judiciary. You got the three pillars of government. You can't, stop. You've got to be open. You've got to be transparent. We've got to address these issues. You can't just try and sweep them under the rug and poo-poo people and market as disinformation. We should have an open and we should have an open discussion about this. I mean, with that, I doubt that they'll probably flag this video. Who knows? Just because. And all I'm saying is we should just have a discussion about it. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for your call. Out of time. All right. I'm sorry. Hold on, Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. I was coming up on the break. I had to go, and I bloviated there for a little bit. But I mean, that's what it is. I appreciate your call, Mark. Thank you for. Let me go back up here to see what you're saying. Says what was her favorite Christmas song? Hard to call when I'm shoveling, says Brian. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And Harold doesn't like to talk about 2,000 Mules. I mean, some of the pro and con commentary on it, and I've read some of the facts that they showed and everything else. Again, I'm not 100% convinced in one way or another. I think that there's still some problems in the electoral process. I don't know if it's as prevalent as many people have believed. But again, perception is reality. So we need to deal with it. We need to deal. Sandy, why would a closet is a oh. In the chat room. That's all I'm saying. That includes you, Harold. Keep it civil in the chat room. All right. Question for Mike Shower. Does he regret marriage? that blessed event. Does he regret his previous? I swear, sometimes as I get older, I'm like, my mouth does not connect to my brain as well as it used to. It used to be a laser instrument. My voice was a laser instrument. Pronunciation has gone into the toilet. Question for Mike Shower. Does he regret his previous membership in the Senate majority? I don't know. It'll be interesting to ask him that. We will see if we can let me star this comment here. Whoops. Wow. Oh, things are so strange. In Twitch is asking the question, so I put it in my favorites and we'll come back to it. Okay. 624. 605. 605. There we go. Okay. So Representative Ben Carpenter will be on in hour 1 on yeah. Okay. What is my favorite Christmas? We've all got favorite. I mean, Bing Crosby. Come on, seriously, Bing Crosby. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Now, you can't even play a 2-second snippet of a music on Facebook or YouTube without them coming in. And last time I played like 10, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I played like 10 seconds of a bit of a song, and I got like a warning and a copyright infringement and something else, and I was just like, good God Almighty, I'm promoting their song. You'd think that people wouldn't be upset with me, but no, that's not how it works. The Fred Waring and his, that's what I was looking for. Fred Waring Orchestra. One of my favorite songs is "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," and it's like 12 minutes or something, but it like got like a full chorus and everything else. "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Fred Waring and his orchestra. Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians. That's what it is. I'm gonna get to the. I don't want to. Lord, I wanted to look at the. Can I even see? Go to the album. There you go. The Meaning of Christmas is the name of the album. It only has 3 songs on the whole album, and it is 48 minutes long. And it includes The Meaning of Christmas. It's a medley that's 23 minutes. "'Twas the Night Before Christmas," which is 7 minutes, and "The Song of Christmas," which is 17 minutes. But the Fred Waring and the Pennsylvanians is the one that I was thinking of. That is good. You have to announce that you do not own or have anything to do with the copyright of the song prior to playing it. The AI don't care, Bill. I could sit here for days. I have no copyrights to none of the music, to none of the things, and blah, 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 blah. And what's really crazy is the bumper music that I use is all from the Facebook royalty-free library, right? But I get warnings on YouTube for using royalty-free music from Facebook. It's copyright. Screw you people, all of you. Anyway, looks like they call it Mr. Shower is in the green room. Boy, you look excited this morning.
I'm wide awake and
Howard. You're footloose and fancy free. All right, hold the line. I'm going to come back to you. Don't go anywhere. We're Common Sense, Liberties, Free Thinking Radio. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Don't forget to like and share the show. Don't forget to like and follow the show page. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. Here we go.
Buddy, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
Welcome to the party, pal.
The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
Now just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Yep, across on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to our audio-only live stream, all the social media links, and more. Good morning, my friends. Good morning. Hour 2 of the big radio program, and we are being joined today for the first time in post-election recap madness by Mike Shower, who is, I want to say thank you to him to come on. Also want to say thank you, by the way, to Satellite West for sponsoring this hour of the program, regardless of where you go, from Menchumina to Metlakatla, from Minto to, I can't think of another M word, but anywhere in the state, pretty much anywhere in the state. All you got to do is give your friends at Satellite West a call. They can keep you connected, whether it's phone calls, whether it's surfing the internet, whether it's sending emails, whether it's sending text messages. They've got the technology to get you covered. Satellite West. And don't forget, we're doing the 5 days of Christmas starting a week from tomorrow, where we're giving away a bivvy stick every day, courtesy of Satellite West, the Michael Duke, and your local radio station. All right. Mike Shower on the program. In the dark. Hello, my friend. How are you? How are you doing? He looks so awake. For those of you, yeah. For those of you who are on the radio, he looks so awake. That is my sarcastic voice. So awake. Good morning, Mr. Shower. They call him Senator Shower. What's going on there, baby? What are you doing? Are you rest and relaxed? Are you ready for your post-election review and wrap up the Shower Hour of Power? Are you ready?
Of course I am. I just need some curler, beer, toe, coffee stuff, whatever you had. I got the girls here with me this morning, so.
Oh, it's beard curler, not toe curler. That's a whole different kind of coffee.
It sounded better.
It did sound good. It did sound good. All right, Mike. Well, I guess should we start off with the obvious? Your thoughts on the result from the pink tinkle, not the red wave, but the pink tinkle. Give me your thoughts on the overall election results from around the country, and of course in the state of Alaska, and then we'll get into the dissection of your race as we go through.
Well, I think most people that would be a Republican or conservative or libertarian or a freedom-loving individual was disappointed in the results. I mean, we're still into the runoff. I haven't even seen the news this morning yet to see what they declared out of Georgia. But the hope for the
Warnock was the winner. Warnock was the winner.
Based 51. On what I saw coming out of Georgia, I can't overly say I'm surprised when you had people that were, busted and caught, stuffing ballot boxes, and God only knows, man. I mean, who knows? But whatever. There seems to be a lot of reasons and analysis for what was happening. Language was certainly part of it. I mean, I looked in some places, Walker, Herschel Walker was outspent what I saw yesterday, like 3-1 or something. They were spending several $100 million there, the Democrat Party and left-wing organizations. So they are spending a ton of money. Same thing happened with the Constitutional Convention up here, right? I mean, look, we were outspent when you include union money that they didn't have to account for. I bet we were outspent 150 to 1. We were directly outspent 100 to 1. Those that supported it, by comparison. So how do you match that when people are so desperate to maintain power? They're willing to put that kind of money. I mean, you're billions of dollars across the country. So,
oh yeah.
I was listening. Michelle and I were to a podcast last week. Had pretty good analysis, and part of it was the language that they talked about. That you had, for example, where they were using the word liberty instead of freedom. You got a big boost in the narrative poll because of understanding the language, right? And it was interesting because, if you remember earlier this year, after the Roe versus Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court and just sent back to the states, it wasn't necessarily overturned on abortion. It was just the states should handle it, right? States issue, which I agree with. Individual states should have the right to do that. That's what makes the federated system, so cool that, hey, what works in California doesn't work in Alaska, doesn't work in Florida.
Right.
That's a
Right.
great system, right? One size does not fit all. But
Right.
the interesting, I thought, analysis out of it was that when you looked at it, they didn't make it about abortion. And what they did instead was they made it about freedom. And so you look at all these Democrat
Yeah.
messages across the country for months now. It's like, oh, you're going to lose your freedom. The Republicans want to take your freedom. They're going to, Biden, right? They're going to put you back in chains. And that was kind of the message that they talked about. And instead of talking about crime and a crashing economy and inflation and overspending by the government and a whole host of issues that we're dealing with, under Democrat control in a lot of these big states and cities and the federal government, all of a sudden they just made it about freedom. And it was interesting because they talked about the younger generation, which is the most pro-life in some time, and yet they voted like 85% for Democrats. And you go, well, how can that be? Because Democrats stand for abortion, right? Not for life. They stand for abortion. And yet the thing is all they were inundated with, Mike, for months was just hundreds of millions of dollars of ads of, well, you're going to lose your freedom. And this is about saving democracy. And you have a president that stands in front of a massive red stage that looks like hell in the background with Marines, right? And he's just going, oh, it's about freedom. Your democracy is about to be destroyed, which is just a ridiculous argument. But unfortunately, a lot of people buy it. And so
Right.
I think there was some pretty good, there's been a lot of pretty good analysis about why it didn't go the way it did. And I think a lot of it had to do with messaging. I think it was not capitalized on very well by people that should have been looking at those issues that we had. Alaska, that's a different story. If we want to get to the local, and the state elections, we're not red. Mike, you and I have been saying that for years. We're not blue.
Right.
We're independent. And so even purple is probably not a good description for Alaska because people vote them out. They vote who out? They keep sending the same people back from other districts, right? Had the town hall 2 nights ago, and it was kind of interesting. One guy stood up. You've had him on the program, Mike Coons. He made I thought, a really good point in front of the crowd that was very upset about different issues and what legislators done what, and the results. And he's like, you guys keep saying this and getting mad at your Matsu legislators, but the reality is when you look at other places like Sitka or Kodiak or Fairbanks, they keep sending the same people back. So the Republicans in those districts are not the Republicans here in the Matsu, certainly not the Democrats and others, or the so-called independents that are really mostly Democrats, right? Because they caucus with, vote with, stick with Democrats. They put an I in front of the name because a D probably would not get them elected. So we're a hodgepodge. We're different, right? Than other states. And so I thought Mike did a really good job of standing up and going, look, folks, sorry about that. The alien pod just turned on. The light in the background. We have one of those alien, I call it alien pods. It looks like one of those alien pods out of the movie, and the little garden thingy sticks up and has the lights come on. So now I have background lighting. I've got more lighting than you do. Anyways, it was just kind of interesting stuff going on, but this is not, I think, necessarily unexpected in Alaska. I think it was there was higher expectations nationwide, but I was talking to Suzanne Downing a couple days before the election, and she was making the prediction it wasn't going to be a big red wave here because we just haven't seen that. And unfortunately, from a perspective of the Senate, the state Senate, the 5 elections that we needed to maintain a higher percentage of conservatives and have more ability to negotiate, and have a stronger presence, all 5 of them were lost.
Right. I mean, they ran the board on that one. I mean, there was no, it was no even split. It was no nothing. They just literally ran the board. I mean, Mike, this is what this is the conclusion that I've come to, and you can comment. And you're right. We've been talking about how the state is more independent for years. We've talked about there are more independents and undeclareds in this state than both the Republicans and the Democrats combined. But I've come to the inexorable conclusion in the post-election after-action review here of this that that we're in the minority. I mean, we being conservatives. I mean, I'm not a Republican, I'm a libertarian, so I believe a little bit differently than probably most everybody else. But fiscal conservatives, smaller government people, we're in the minority in Alaska. I mean, just look at the results of the elections. Look at the largesse being voted from the public trough, right? Look at the again, sending the same people back over and over and again from these different districts. We're in the minority. This state has become a state of more government dependency. And that's happening across the nation. But in Alaska, you always thought that it was, this rugged individualism, I mean, you always thought that. And yet here we are in this post-election. And the inexorable truth is we're not conservative. This state is overall not a conservative state.
No, parts of it are conservative, parts are liberal, parts are somewhere in between.
I'm saying holistically, right? You're right. Matsu, very conservative. Most of Soldotna, well, I mean, I think is conservative, or most of the Kenai, the peninsula is conservative. Interior, Anchorage, definitely not. Juneau, definitely not. But I mean, overall, holistically, we're not really conservative anymore. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
And the question you go back to, Mike, were we ever? I mean, really, when you think about it, the state started off as a Democrat-controlled state. Now, those Democrats were very different than the Democrats of today. Those Democrats were more of the Dixiecrat or the Blue Dog Democrats. Those were around. Today's Democrats, if you even want to call them that, I'm not even sure that if I was a Democrat, I think I'd be upset having to be associated with some of the people that call themselves Democrats, because they're really Marxist or progressive socialist or whatever they are, but they're certainly not the old Democrat Party that still loved America. I mean, look at how many Democrat signs. Go out and look at Democrat signs, Mike. When you look at the campaign signs, how many of them even have an American flag on them? Most of them don't, if any of them do. I mean, they don't even associate with this country anymore. I mean, they're so far left and extreme on that side. And so, that's the reality of what we live in. Alaska started off as a Democrat-controlled state. It started off as a heavy union state. And maybe Alaska is returning to its roots. I don't know, but you did look at who's leaving the state. We've talked about this, before, which is why I think some of us, if you have analysis, we're not overly surprised. It's the blue collar workers. They're leaving. They're going to Texas and Florida and Louisiana and places where there's job market, that's better and hotter for oil and gas, et cetera. And who's moving up here? People from the left coast, Hawaii, California, Oregon, Washington, want to turn Alaska into a national park. Maybe that's where it's going to go. I don't know. It's going to certainly hurt opportunity, and it's going to hurt development, because we are a resource development state. There's not going to be much left besides federal government. So,
Mike Shower is our guest, state senator from District O. Still trying to get used to the new district. And we're going to talk a little bit about his election when we get back here. We're going to take a quick break, and we will return. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Don't forget, you can come out and join us. Facebook or YouTube or Twitch. Any one of those platforms. Just type in Michael Duke Show and you'll hear. And we'll continue our discussions with State Senator Mike Shower. It's like what we like to call the Shower Hour of Power. We'll be back with more right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Broadcasting live through a series of tubes.
Allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
All right, Mike Shower is our guest, and we're talking about election stuff. I don't know if, and I think Chris in the chat room probably agrees with that. Just ask the question, question, flags are a sign as a measure of patriotism? I mean, I don't know if putting an American flag on the campaign sign makes a difference or not. I don't know. I mean, I'm fairly patriotic. I'm not as fervently nationalistic as I used to be. I support the Constitution and the concept of America. I don't support the government of America. I think there's a big difference there. But I don't know if that's I don't know what I don't know. I have a hard time with that saying I see people, look, Mitch McConnell's got an American flag pin on his lapel. That don't make him, Joe Biden wears an American flag pin on his lapel. I don't think AOC does, but you know what I mean. Anybody can slap the flag on and call it good. I don't think that makes a hill of beans difference. It's the walk. It's the walk. It's not the talk, so to speak.
Sure, but here's my point, Mike. If Chris says that, he's missing what my point is that I'm not afraid, for example, to put the American flag on my campaign signs. Why? Because I'm American. I live in America. I love this country. I love the concept and the principles behind it. Like you, I don't necessarily like everything the government does or those in charge of it and the things that we've done. We have blights in our history too, like any country does. I still love my country. It's where I was born and raised, where my kids and grandkids are born and raised, and hopefully we'll continue to be a country, see how it goes. But when you look at, campaign signs, it's fascinating to me because most Republicans, put the flag up. They put the state flag, they put the, American flag up. They're not embarrassed about it. They're proud to associate with the nation, right? But you see most Democrats, you look around like they don't put that sign up, they don't put that flag on there. So I'm talking about it from a point of view of what's that philosophical bent. The philosophical bent of most of the Democrat Party is anti-America, hate their own nation, don't like it, think it's bad, want to tear it down, want to rebuild it into some socialist utopia. That's the reality, Mike. They talk about it. We see it all the time. So I mean it more it's a philosophical thing, not about, because they have an American flag, they're a good person. But, you could, we know that's not true. Like you said, look at who wears the flag pin, et cetera. They do it because they think it's expected of them, not because they love it. I don't put the American flag on my campaign signs because I want people to think something. I put it up there because I'm proud of my country. I love my country, right? Doesn't mean I'm proud of my government. Doesn't mean I agree with everything. It's my country. There's a big difference. And that doesn't mean you're nationalistic either to do that. I still see the world and the things that are going on. We're human first, right? And American second, et cetera, depending on your point of view. So I only bring it up as a point to say when you talk about the parties, the people that are in charge, what's their philosophy? What do they really care about? And I see too many Democrats that are looking and they want this to be about, big government. They want this to be about control. Look at what's happening with the baker and the wedding designer in Colorado. I was reading the court case now going before the Supreme Court, and the words, Mike, ought to chill people that the Democrats are doing to people in Colorado. The words are in there. It says, compel the wedding designer to do something she doesn't want to do. Listen to those words again. Compel somebody. So let's say, I want you to go to church. I don't want to go to church. I'm an atheist. I don't care. I'm going to compel you to go to church. I want you to carry a gun. I don't like guns. I don't care. I'm going to compel you to carry. So where does that stop? But the ones using that language are, people in Colorado, for example, that are in charge that are hard left, hard extreme left. And so there are some very concerning things that are happening. And I know people always come back, they'll find one example, say, well, the Republicans or conservatives doing this one thing. I get that, which is why you and I look at it from an issues-based perspective, not as an overall party. I don't support 100% of everything the Republican Party does. Clearly,
Yeah,
I've had my issues, right? So we're more nuanced than that. But generally, philosophically, I was fascinated because, running across the state, every Democratic sign, I didn't see a single one with the flag on it. I may have missed one, but I didn't see one. Most Republicans had the American flag somewhere in their, on their sign. It says something to me. It does.
Right. All right. Mike Showers, our guest. The ding means we got to jump back into it. We're ready. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like it, share, like it, follow, hit subscribe, ring the bell. Here we go. Let's do it. Welcome back to the program. It is the Mike Common Sense Radio. We're continuing our discussions now with State Senator Mike Shower for what we like to call the Shower Hour of Power. Mike just got through talking about the elections in general across the state, across the nation, what his thoughts are. I want to talk a little bit about his race because, well, let's face it, Mike, you were the come-from-behind kid, right? I mean, you were facing a big deficit coming out of the primary, and I think that some of the neckbeards in the legislature were stroking their mustaches and cackling gleefully, thinking, oh, they had it in the bag. And you went out and did some work, and you educated some people. The next thing you know, well, you cruised to victory. And I think that was surprising to a lot of people because, well, let's just face it, you're not a lot of folks' favorite person. And by that, I mean people who are in power, the powers that be. You're not their favorite person.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit about your election overall. What did you experience on the trail? What did you see out there? And what gave you the leverage to, how did you win, Mike? That's what we want to know. How did you win?
So let's start on the first thing, and I'll say Doug and I have talked, Doug Massey, since then. We've come to terms, shaking hands, and I told him because there is a certain senator up here in the valley that is still telling people that I recruited Doug Massey to run against him, which is such a ridiculous lie. I don't even know what to say, because Doug called me over a year ago and said he was interested in running, and he was in a different district before the redistricting. But so be it. Is what it is. But Doug and I have talked, and I told him, I said, Doug, this is a blood sport. This can get expensive, contentious, a lot of high emotions because you dedicate a lot of time and money. Family gets involved, et cetera, and it did. This race, like others, gets contentious, and things happen. And when it was over, we had a good conversation about a week ago, and he's like, "You're not mad?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Dude, it's blood sport. We invest time. We want to win. Two guys that want to win and do their thing, and it just happens. I said, man, it's over. It's time to govern, move on. So we're good. Had a good conversation, and you just move on, Mike. You got to put those things in the past, which I wish the Senate would do, but apparently it's not gonna, because that's another conversation for later. But like we talked about, it's kind of interesting because we were down 700 and we ended up being up about 700. We flipped it pretty significantly because I saw a lot of politicos, and it was really funny to watch Landfield, the coverage on election night. They were so smug. He had a couple of the old guards sitting there with him. He had somebody that was very supportive of my opponent on that one there with him at the table, and they were like, "Oh, Shower's out. He's never going to win. He's so far behind." You could just see it, right? And they're like, "Oh, we got this one." And then the results came in. It reminded me a little bit of 2016, watching like the Young Turks and others that start off, "Oh, Clinton's a little behind. She'll be fine." Then by an hour later, it's like, well, there's still a way for her to pull it off. About 2 hours later, it was like, maybe if she gets that one state, she can still Hail Mary it, and by the end of it, they were crying in tears, whatever. And it was just funny to watch the progression of that, and it's, oh, he'll be fine, whatever. So you could just see it because they did. They counted me out. And I've heard a lot of people, or I've talked to a lot of people since then that, they were counting on me being gone. They've been putting this organization together since May. And after August, when they were absolutely sure that I was done. There's no way I was coming back. You ask Landfield, he'll tell you, go back and look at his thing. Oh, Shower's
right.
out. No way he can win, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. But the reality, Mike, is it took a lot of hard work, obviously. And, Michelle and I were pulling probably 19-hour days, 7 days a week. The one thing I didn't tell anybody is while this whole thing was going on, I was also doing captain upgrade at FedEx. I can say that now. I didn't want that to come out and be used against me. But I was a busy hombre, man, exceedingly during that time. And we reassessed our strategy. And what happened was when you look at people, the politicos you talk about that don't like me because I don't do what I'm told by the party and the old guard, is Randy Rudrick and some others, the redistricting stuff. They put me down at Big Lake KGB, because they knew that was going to be a tough thing if they take you out of the district and redistrict. And they did it. And we've had people tell me since that's how it played out.
To which I say thank you, by the way. First of all, thank you to those guys for doing that because now I'm in your district. But go ahead. That was not the point. Was to make it harder for you, not to make me happy, but to make it. But it was a win-win as far as that goes.
So yeah, it was a tough reassessment. And after the primary, we knew, okay, here's the deal. This is what it's going to take. We have to reassess our strategy. And we spent a lot of time in Big Lake and KGB, and it was about education, right? Getting out and knocking doors. We knocked over 2,000 doors just in Big Lake KGB alone. We focused a lot of radio and, writing campaigns, town halls, etc. Not town halls per se, but, meet and greets, that kind of stuff. I mean, we focused a lot of time because we had 6,000 or 7,000 people, Mike, we had to introduce ourselves to and tell them who I was and what I stood for. And when we had a chance to talk to people, they go, "Oh, I like you, but I thought it was the other guy. I wanted somebody new." We got that a lot. And, over that 3 months or so, September, October, November, we just worked our tails off and reassessed the strategy. And as it turns out, that was a winning strategy. And it just needed work. And we had a lot of volunteers. So I'm saying thank you. I want to say, like I said, to start off with Doug, it's contentious, but you get past it, you shake hands and move on. And we had a lot of volunteers and a lot of people helping. I mean, Tommy Anderson and his folks at Optima, they did fantastic for us, just working their tails off. Mike, we started waving signs. We saw you once. You remember I was yelling at you? I called you. I think this was 6 weeks before the general election. We were waving signs on street corners.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. We were out
Yeah.
there early. We're going to hit it. We had volunteers out there with us, because you went by in that little mini thing you drive. And, I was like, Dukes.
Yeah. I saw you
So-
as I drove by, and I looked back and went, "Oh, that was Mike Shower," and then you
Yeah.
called me as I was driving away. So yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what it was. I mean, you guys did the work. I'll be honest with you, I didn't see anything about Massey. I didn't see him out there. I didn't see him going to the meet and greets. I didn't see him reaching out into Healy. I didn't see, all those things. He wouldn't come on the program. He wouldn't, there was really not a lot of engagement. I think it was, like you said, they saw the August numbers. And because his name is so well known down in this area, they're like, "Oh, it's a, it's the tortoise and the hare," right? I mean, all over again, where they just wasn't willing to do the work. And I'm glad you made it through. And I think that this shows that people in your district appreciate you and know you, and that's good. Now, that's not necessarily good for the folks, as you said, down in Juneau, because I think, as you said, that they were expecting you to lose, and this was all part of their plan. They were trying to create their own super majority, and he was part of it, and it didn't happen. So now you've thrown the monkey wrench in the works, and here we come up to the coalition, the majority in the Senate, and well, I mean, from my perspective, this thing's a hot mess because it basically sidelines what I think are probably the three best senators in the legislature right now, from my perspective, because they most closely align with my philosophy. And you guys are now out in the cold. Now, you guys offered to join. You only had a few minor stipulations, if they wanted to work together. I mean, this was not just out of the blue. You guys did what you guys offered something that was pretty, I thought, pretty fair and equitable, right? When you were talking about creating a Republican majority in the Senate.
It is fascinating when you look at the recalcitrance of some of them. And of course, you have one person that came back after getting unelected who's going to have an axe to grind, clearly, from before. But, it's not. It's interesting when you watch the narrative, Mike, because you see the narrative being pushed that, "Oh, we're hard to work with." I'm like, are you telling me that it's really, seriously, it's because we're hard to work with? You want me to go through the list of personalities and talk about some of these other senators and how hard they are to work with and their kind of personalities, and you're going to use that as an excuse? That's pretty laughable to me. It's just an excuse, Mike, is what it is. They talk about the votes in the past. I'm like, there are people they put in their coalition that haven't voted, that don't ever vote against the PFD, have voted against the budget, and they're in the coalition. So that doesn't work as an excuse either. "Oh, well, we can't find 8 Republicans. Those other 8 don't want to work." Then 3 of them are brand new. How can that even be used as an excuse? They're new to the Senate. They have no basis to make that assessment on how it went in the Senate. And then, the other
Right.
senator from up here that joined said openly, "Oh, I get along with them. It's fine." There's half of the 8 that have no basis for not joining because they're not working together. So choices were made to do this. So at best, you've got maybe 3 or so that are driving the entire Republican train for this happening. And so let's go to the baseline for how we got here, understanding that the premises for their arguments are false. So what is it about? It's about power, Mike. It always has been about power. We know that. There's nothing surprising. But guess what they've got back? What they didn't have for the last 2 years was their binding caucus rule. right? We had enough people in the Senate that said, I'm not going to play under that rule. I'm not going to promise my vote for the next 2 years. And now 17 senators have promised their vote to a handful of people in leadership for the next 2 years. They have no idea what they're going to vote on. They're probably not going to like some of it. Probably going to have to go against their own campaign promises, but they've now given their votes for the next 2 years, which should be illegal, but it isn't. Isn't every other state? But here, and remember, we're the only state in the union that does this, Mike. Remember, I've done this research, but I won't talk about it again because we've talked about it. But this is about the binding caucus and power. So doing what they did and kicking the three of us out because we said very clearly that we're not gonna promise our vote, and that's the premise, right? That is the principle here, Mike. It's not promising your vote. You're going to vote on every issue that comes before you. Once you see what it is, you make an assessment based on your statutory constitutional obligations, what you think is best for your district and people in the state, and then you vote yes or no. Well, in this organization, as opposed to the last 2 years, it's going to be back to you've already promised your vote. You've given it. You don't know what you're voting for, but you gave it anyways. And you're going to have to vote procedurally with the presiding officer. And that can be a weapon. Ask Bill Wielechowski. He used to try to pull out SGR1 all the time, which was the 50-50 plan on the PFD. And it got voted down every time. Why? Because, well, you got to vote with whatever the president says, and if you're in the House, whatever the speaker says. So you're promising your votes. That's problematic, but it's about power, Mike. So the three of us were not willing to compromise our principles enough to do that. And what we asked for was very simple. We said, look, if you just separate the PFD into a separate vote, we can live with that. And then if we win or lose that battle, you win or lose the battle. You got to have 11-21 to pass something, right? And I've never demanded that other people vote that way. I'm just tired of people demanding that I vote a certain way, right?
Right.
So if you just separate it out, they already got the votes to kill it. Anybody can count votes. They're going to kill the PFD this year. It's already dead. Before we even get there, the Senate's going to kill it. It's going to be
you just wanted to have a chance to exercise the will of your constituency, right?
And tell people that I'm going to vote the way you want me to. That over, it's like 80% in our district want the PFD, and you expect me to. But here's the point: they want me, and they know it, Mike, to commit political suicide. Why do you think they've been shoving that in the budget and doing that to us for years now? Because they know in our districts it's political suicide. I'm not asking them to vote against something that's political suicide in their districts, but they're asking us to do it. And it's one of the reasons they have to fight so hard against that binding rule, because it puts us into a square corner politically. That's just, why would you do that to your colleagues and then say we're the ones that are hard to work with? We're the problem, but they ask us to commit political suicide repeatedly. That's not fair, nor is it right, nor is it treating your colleagues well, but that's what they've done to us over and over again. It's a problem for us, right? So the binding rule was a lot of what this was about. It was the other things, Mike, are just excuses so they can have a binding rule to consolidate power. It makes it easy. They can do whatever they want, and they've got the votes. All right, fair enough. It's what it is. It's politics. Fortunes rise and fall. As I've been telling people, I said a lot of them are old. I'm young. I got time. Work this problem. So
that's true.
Yeah, that is. I've got 4 years. I'm a 4-year seat. A lot of these are 2-year seats. So we'll see how things go in 2 years. Be careful how you treat people, right? Because things do. What goes around comes around. There's a second thing here that's also a baseline issue, right? And just like the binding caucus, where I told people, I said, look, if you were going to build a house and you talk to the builder and you talk to the banker and said, okay, guys, we're going to build a house. I want a nice house for you. They said, we're going to do that for you. But Mr. Dukes, we're going to build the house the way we want to build it. And when we're done building it, we're going to tell you how much that house is going to cost you and what your interest rate is going to be on the 30-year loan. You're like, what? That's what, and you're like, I'm not taking that deal. It's my house. I got, but that's what the binding rule is, Mike. And when you really get down to it, that's the bottom line. You're being told by the banker and the builder what it's going to be, and you've already promised your vote no matter what it is. The second problem we deal with here, and I've just found this out from some other legislators doing some research talking about it, the federal government, U.S. Congress and Senate, and apparently, according to them, every other state. This is one I haven't done research on, so I'm relying on it. When a party reaches the 50% plus one in the election, they're in power. There's no crossing the line. There's no nothing else. They're in power. So if you get, 11 Republicans in Mississippi out of 20, Republicans are in power. They figure it out. They have a structure, but they're in charge. Maybe a Democrat comes across and joins them. That's fine. But once again, the banana republic of Alaska, just like this binding caucus rule that everybody else thinks is insane, has this thing up here. We have to be the anomaly again that, a majority of a party in charge of a chamber or, numbers doesn't mean anything in Alaska. It's like you get 11 Republicans, that means nothing. because a couple of Republicans just go over and going to join with the Democrats and give them power. You got 11 Republicans, and yet the 9 Democrats are essentially in charge of the Senate. They said, no, they're not. Yes, they are. They're four of the 8 leadership. There's more Democrats in the Senate majority coalition than there are Republicans, and 3 of the 5 power seats. The president's not really a very powerful seat. You look at, well, that's a Republican. Well, that's Gary Stevens. He's very moderate. That's fine. He's admitted it's not a big deal. It is what it is. Like I said, there's different flavor Republicans, but the power seats are rules, right? Determine what's going to happen on the floor, what bills come through. And 2 of the 3 finance seats, the real powerful committee, are Democrats. 3 of the 5 power seats are Democrats. And you got some Republicans saying, well, it's like, it's not really a Democrat, dominated, yes, it is. Come on, guys. But Mike, in every other state in the union, Republicans, if they get a majority by one person, they're in charge. They make it work. In Alaska, we have Republicans continuously, even when we send a majority. Doesn't matter. They join hands with Democrats, and somehow Democrats keep being in charge. Look at the House. More Democrats than Republicans, hasn't mattered. They keep having the charge. So we do this to ourselves, and it bespeaks to the underlying structural problems. Alaska's different. It's not the same.
State Senator Mike Shower is our guest. The Michael Duke Show is going to continue. When we return, we're going to talk with him about what's coming up in this next session, in his mind. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about where do we go from here. That's all up next. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
All right, we're in the chat room. Boy, he really needs a beard curler coffee mug, doesn't he?
Do you see this? This is why I'm getting better. I'm waking up. Coffee's coming.
Need a better mug is what you need. We need to get you a Michael Duke Show beard mug is what we need to do. All right. Let's this. I had to jump when I saw this question earlier, and this was before you came on. But Chris on Twitch asked the question, and I had to think the same thing, because I was constantly hounding you over the last 18 months. Why are you continuing in this same BS caucus that you've got going on, where the president is just stringing you along and jerking your chain, and the powers that be, the old guard, was basically running the show from the background? Chris asks from Twitch, do you regret your previous membership in the Senate majority? Do you wish something could you have, and I'll add to that, should you have made the change? Your comment before was, well, if we make a change of any kind, we have to do a coalition with, but that's eventually what's happened. And now the coalition that they made is predominantly Democrats. It's not partially Democrats. It's predominantly Democrats. And it's not even like a pro-PFD caucus. It is a democratically controlled caucus. Whereas we had talked about finding those pro-PFD senators out, Republican and Democrat, to create a new majority. Well, do you regret it? And what do you say?
Here's a couple things, Mike. So number one, the Democrats don't break up. They stick together, generally speaking. You got Olson and Hoffman, but they've always gone back and forth. They're not like the others. They're different from that Bush side, and they've always played that game. But the rest of the Democrats, they stay together. They don't break apart. They don't do that. So in negotiations like that, you're not going to get 2 or 3 Democrats to come across. You're going to get the whole shooting match, which is what they did. But the guys that have been working on this since May, the old guard, they don't care. They've joined with the Democrats before. They've been sent to the basement before. They could care less, Mike. They plan on being there until they die, I guess. So it doesn't matter to them how long they play this game, and they're there for the long game. They just want the power and control and flow of the money. That's kind of what it really comes down to, the best you can tell looking at it. So, so be it. Is what it is, like I said. But here's what's interesting, because everybody can Monday day quarterback, right? Everybody gets to throw spears here and say, you should have done this, you should have done that. And I'm certainly honest enough of myself to look at, intellectually honestly go, boy, I wish I would have done that or done something different. You can always do that when it's over. But it's like our town hall the other night, is people going, I want names. I want you to name names, and I want you to do this and do that. I go, okay, I can do that. But if I do that, then that's going to piss off the other politicos down there, politicians. And then in 2 years, I'm going to get excluded again. And then I'm not going to be effective in doing anything for my district. I'm not going to be in a majority. And you're going to be mad about that. Why didn't you do this? So the question becomes always is like, well, what do you really want me to do here? Do you want me to just sit over here on my hill and jump up and down and wave the flag and, and be the outlier? Or do you want me to actually try to get money for infrastructure and roads? Do you want me to try to be in a position to, get the best PFD I can get? Because clearly we're getting outvoted on that one every year until this last year, which was a unique circumstance. So it's not as simple as people make it out to be. Mike, you know this. You've been in this game for a long time. You've watched it. I can't just do that one thing because that one thing has implications later on. So joining with the Democrats was certainly an option, something that some of us had talked about to go, can we do better? But right now, I count maybe 6 or 7 in the entire Senate that you might call pro PFD. They've already got the numbers to kill it in the Senate, and the House is going to be pretty close to an even split on that. So, what do you want me to do about that? We simply don't have the numbers. We can talk to the governor. We can look at how he might veto things or, play the game and twist some arms. He's got some potential. Depends on what Mike decides to do. I have no idea what that's going to be. So, I think we all have regrets when you look back and go, man, I wish I would have done this or that, but you weren't going to get a coalition with just the Democrats. It would have been a handful of Republicans way over outnumbered by Democrats. And people would have been, you know what, we'd have this conversation had I done it. Well, Mike, you joined those Democrats and gave them power. Great. So it's like, what do you,
Right.
can't really win that argument because somebody's always going to come back and say, well, you should have done this. Well, you should have done that. I'm not going to say I shouldn't have done certain things. There's probably 100 things I could have done better. So you try to learn from that and move on. But the reality is, Mike, and we'll talk about this when we get back on radio. There's just because we're in a majority of 3, that doesn't matter. There have been majorities of 2 and 3 before, and then those people eventually come back into power as things shift and change. So, and we'll see what the House does. And we have a governor that I still have a good relationship with that hopefully we can swing some things. So just because we're in a minority of 3 doesn't mean we're ineffective, doesn't mean we're not going to get things done. We have a new lieutenant governor that actually seems interested in cleaning up some of our election issues, which we had one before that wouldn't touch it for 4 years. I tried. And you guys know that I've said it 100 times on this show, tried this, tried that. Can we do this? And not one thing ever happened. Right. So there is positive momentum on some things, but like all things, Mike, look at it like, look at the Democrats. When this stuff happens to them, it's, oh, this is just a temporary setback. We'll work on the next one in 2 years, 4 years. They keep going. They don't give up. So why should we? Not giving up.
Mike Shower's our guest, The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Here we go. Okay, one final segment here with Mike Shower, kind of doing the after-action rehash of the election and everything else. But let's look forward now. Let's look forward to this upcoming session. We've already seen that, the Senate President, Gary Stevens, has said, well, I don't think ranked choice voting is going to be a thing. And then we saw Kathy Giesel quoted in the paper as saying, we're going to give you the dividend that we can afford, and many of these other things. So give us a prediction here, Kreskin. Place that envelope against your forehead with your turban and your magic ball, and tell us, what do you think? What are going to be the big things that are coming up in the in this next session that you're going to have to fight against in some way? I mean, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but it's obviously a losing battle. 3 of you versus 17 others. You might be able to pull a few, but this is going to be a hard fight. So give me an idea where you're at.
Well, Mike, you got to be positive, right? We talked about, we're upset about this. It's a bummer that didn't happen. We get all that. But again, just because there's only 3 of us versus 17 does not mean that, we're down and out, because there's other things at play here, right? Number one, some of those people are going to be in probably quite a pickle here in about a year and a half when they're running and say they were running with Democrats and they were looking at critical race theory and defunding the police and, increasing the BSA $1,000, which is about freaking $400 million, going to break the bank, pushing on a defined benefit plan for all state employees that's going to cost us billions we don't have. Watch the PFD get taken and evaporated, again, which has always been like the death knell for a lot of politicians, especially these, 4 or 5 from the more conservative areas. So, things are not as simple as they seem, right? And if the House organizes under Republicans, that's something that's another, arrow in our quiver of working with them, because we'll be doing that. And even if they don't, it's going to be a real thin, coalition again, regardless. And of course, we have our Republican governor again. So we have other avenues to enact change. One, as the first part, to do things to make positive change. We have a new lieutenant governor, like I said on the break, which people on the radio didn't hear, that seems very interested in actually helping clean up issues with the election system that we need, that we got no movement for the last 4 years. Maybe I'll actually get to see the Shabaka report for a change and find out those 18 recommendations Kelly had for things that I needed to fix, and then work with the lieutenant governor and just get them done, because not everything requires statutory change. As I pointed out in the
Right.
radio here before, we've discovered a lot of over the last 4 years, many things that don't require statutory change. They're policy, regulation, which we can just do. So we can affect positive change that way. So there are a number of things. The governor has the veto pen, Mike. If he wants to, he can look at them and go, if you screw over my 3 Republican colleagues in the Senate, you don't work with me well in the House, 2v1, if you will, then, he's got the options to come out and veto. I mean, Jay Hammond, you go back and I talked to Jerry Reinwald, his aide from many, many years ago, and he's like, he would do that. He'd twist arms because the governor has a lot of power, vetoes and goes, oh, okay, you're going to do this. Well, then your bills aren't getting through. That matters to people, right? Their personal bills. So just because we're small doesn't mean we don't have impact. And there will be times, Mike, where they need our votes. If you think you're going to get the Democrats to vote yes on certain things when there's 9 of them and only 8 Republicans in that coalition, guess what that 3 equals? 11. There may be some times here, partner, where they need our votes, and we look at them and go, really? You need our votes now, do you? So, where people can sit back and be smug and say, ha, 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 we got them boxed into a corner. Well, maybe for some things, sure you do. There's other times you don't. And sometimes you're going to need help. And in 2 years, you might lose some of your allies. And all of a sudden, things look different. So playing the long game here, Mike, of how this plays out, because there's a lot more at stake. And there's other, like I said, arrows in the quiver to use that are not just because there's 3 of us and 17 of them. So I've actually got some hope here. And there's a lot of things we're going to be working on and pushing. And there's going to be amendments and other things happening that are, going to be important for Alaska. I'm not going to give up at all on the repeal of ranked choice voting. I saw, soon to be President Stevens say, we're not interested in that, and a few others, and they're not, because they think it works to their advantage, I suppose, or they like it or whatever it is. But I will tell you right now, knocking doors and going through the district, I would tell you it's about 90% opposed. I don't know where Senator-elect Giesel's getting her numbers from. Like 76% of the people like ranked choice voting. I'm like, what poll did you get that from? Alaskans for Better Election employees? Goodness gracious, because I didn't see that. I can tell you right now, it was about 85 to 90% in my district against it, walking doors at, meet and greets, et cetera. People do not like that. And by the way, brother, as I told you, ranked choice voting is known because we had that political science professor from Stanford give us that, he's done the deepest dive, and I brought it up in front of committee, had him brief us, come talk to us. It is no, you talk about voter suppression, that's ranked choice voting. And what did you see last time in 2020? The highest, I think it was the highest vote turnout we had. Of course, it was online and all kinds of other stuff, but what was the turnout this time?
Yeah.
260,000 out of 600,000 voters. It's doing exactly what we expected it to do. People go, it's too complicated. I hate it. I don't get involved. It suppresses votes, Mike. It's what it does.
2018 was a record low turnout for a general election. This was even lower by 4 points, a 10% reduction in this last election. So definitely not.
Predicted it, brother. Predicted it right off the empirical data. So.
Yeah, a couple of things. We're running out of time here. So, I mean, a couple of the hard things that I think, and you've mentioned them, defined benefits. Obviously going to be one of the big flagship bills that the Democrats and the majority are going to want to push because they're already talking about it. The BSA, We're already, I mean, somebody already said it looks like that. We're working behind the scenes. They're talking about $1,000 increase to the BSA, which I said was 500 yesterday. It's 5,000. That was my bad. $5,000 already. Now they're going to increase it by another 20%. So we've seen this ever increasing amount of money, and our scholastic achievement continues to go into the toilet. The enrollment continues to go down. But those are going to be some of the big things. How do we fight against that?
Well, the two answers I gave you is that one, you hope the House organizes and has the numbers to stop any craziness like that. Policies that don't make common sense, policies that are not going to be affordable. And the second thing is we're going to have to rely on the governor, because the ultimate fallback to this, Mike, is the governor looks at that, goes, that is not good for Alaska. That is not affordable. That doesn't make sense. It's bad policy. And the governor vetoes it. And I can tell you this, we've got the numbers to protect any overrides. So if the governor does decide to pull out the pen and go, that doesn't work, that's not good for Alaska long-term fiscal stability, you name it, Mike vetoes it. And they will not get the veto override. So anything he vetoes, it's going to stay. So that's important, because that means we've got a fallback of Mike, and he's done some, like, this vaping bill that just came out that changed it. Well, I spoke out against it and voted against it on the floor because I said this is wrong, and it talked about like 18-year-olds being able to die for their country, but they can't vape. I'm not saying it's a smart thing for your health. I'm saying that they should have that right? If they're 18 years old, you're either 18 on everything or you're not, right? What's the actual age? And Mike vetoed it to his credit. He said, this is not a good bill. So, and it's not going to be overridden. It's dead. So hopefully the governor will look at some of these policies as well, Mike, and back us up and go, that's not good. That's vetoed. That's vetoed. Line item budget craziness that comes out. We saw what happened with education forward funding. Remember that in our Constitution, it's unconstitutional to dedicate funds. Well, they got around that by changing the language. Say, oh, we're going to use another D word, designate. That's dedicated funds, but it's unconstitutional. Yeah. But because they use the word designate, the court said, oh yeah, you can do that. Even the Alaska Supreme Court shot down the forward funding of education, which I said on the floor when my amendment to strip out the forward funding was voted down in the Senate. It's unconstitutional. Supreme Court said it. So it's not all gloom doom, folks. That's what I want you to take away from this. There is positives. There's lots of things can be done. There's lots of ways to skin that cat. And just because the Senate 8 purple whatever Republicans decided to join and give 9 Democrats the power and the majority in the Senate does not mean it's over. There's lots of ways to block. There's lots of ways to accomplish stuff and move things. And that's what we're going to do, Mike. We're going to be nimble. We'll keep you guys informed. We'll put a spotlight on all the things that are out there, and we'll move forward, because this is only 2 years, and almost anything that's done can be undone anyways. And a lot of the bad stuff can be blocked. It's not like they have super majorities. They don't. And they're even going to need our votes on some stuff. So more complicated, not nearly as simple as people think it is. How about that?
State Senator Mike Shower. Appreciate you coming on board and joining us. Tomorrow, folks, Representative Ben Carpenter in hour 1. Still working on hour 2, Gas Friday. We've got Jeff Knox and Chris Chang. The Michael Duke Show. Be kind, love one another, live well. We'll see you tomorrow. All right. So since you're still drinking coffee and I'm still here and we're ready to hang out, we still got 75 folks, 80 folks hanging out with us in the chat rooms. Give me what I wanted to get to was my final question of where do we go from here? How do we play the next 2 years coming up into the next election cycle? I mean, what is your exhortation to the listeners, to the residents out there over the next 2 years? How should we be preparing for the next battle? Which, I mean, setting aside the session itself, we're talking about the next election, legislative election. What should we be doing in your mind to try and nudge it more from purple back to red, so to speak, or get those people? Because somebody said earlier when I said we're in the minority now, they said, I disagree with you. I think we're still in the majority, but I think a lot of people just threw their hands up and said, I'm done. That there's a lot of conservatives out there. There's probably a majority of conservatives, but they just are like, they're not participating anymore. So what is your, what would you say is the battle?
They vote for a Republican who then joins Democrats. Of course, they're frustrated and angry because they go, I voted for a Republican. Woohoo! Then how come 9 Democrats control the Senate? I would be mad too. I would be upset if my senator went and did that, right? But other districts, they get away with it. They do that. So I understand that part. But I should have said it on the air, but we'll talk about it over the next weeks and months. Number one, folks, we got to repeal ranked choice voting. This Senate body is not going to touch that. They're not going to touch election integrity. They're not going to touch, how we select our judges. They're not going to repeal ranked choice voting. They've said as much. And for some of it helped them get elected. So number one, we got to work, and there's the initiative process. And I'm asking you, get involved in it. Give it money, donate to it, donate your time, help get signatures, help get it on the ballot, make sure people get out and vote for it. If we get that on the ballot in 2024, I firmly believe the people will reject ranked choice voting, will strip it out. And then we can move on and we can start taking certain things back. That's number one. Get involved, because that's going to be a statewide effort. And we're going to get outspent again. They are going to spend tens of millions of dollars, Mike, to hold on to that, because they see that as something that giving them Alaska to the Democrats. So that's number one. Number two is, while we have ranked choice voting, we have got to stop running 4 candidates, 4 Republicans against each other, circling the wagons and shooting. We need one good candidate in every district that's not going to turn their back on Republican colleagues, that's going to stick with Republican principles and enact those values. And so instead of having 2 or 3 Republicans that split the ticket, we need everybody in every district and their party to find that one good, solid Republican candidate and run that one. Let Democrats do whatever they do, whatever. Find one, run the one, and everybody gets behind the one. That's how we're going to beat ranked choice voting, Mike. And we did it on Peltola, right? We split the vote because we had Nick and Sarah, and we split the vote. And there were 2 people, I won't vote for the other one, and nobody would put the other one as second. And guess what? We got a Democrat, first time in 50 years, half a century. So repeal ranked choice voting, find one solid candidate to run while we have ranked choice voting, and everybody get behind that one in every district. And we can win most of these, because in most of these districts, there was enough Republican votes to put a Republican in. There's anomalies like the Merrick McCarty one that was all Republican, but then the Republican decided to join with Democrats. But there was a history for that anyways.
Right.
So,
right.
There's never a guarantee in it, Mike, but that's the best I think you can do with what we have right now. Repeal that silly thing, get rid of it. But at the same time, learn how to use it, while we have it. You got to play the game while it's there. It's the game in front of you. You can't go out in the baseball field and play football. Not going to work. You're in a baseball game. So let's find the rules. Let's figure out what makes it work. How's it tick? And let's get smart about it. And for the next election cycles, while we have it, let's get good at playing the game and winning it. We can't just give up and throw our hands up in the air, or then they did win.
Right. We need to engage. Look, we who are active need to engage with those who are inactive or frustrated. And we need to encourage them. We need to, a part of this is the national polarization. Part of this is the fact that everybody's at everybody's throats, right, left, everything else. I mean, and people are just, especially people in the middle, the independents and the undeclareds are like, oh God, I can't take any more of this. And they just wander off in the pucker brush. We need to engage them. And again, in a kind way, in a way that is not venomous, in a way that, it's hearts and minds. It's hearts and minds. How to win friends and influence people. That's what we need to be doing. Everybody should get a copy of that book and read it, and then go talk to their friends about politics. That's what everybody should do, in a kind, loving, gentle way. And I don't mean to be touchy-feely, but that's what it's going to take, because these people have abandoned the field because they're like, what the none of this works. None of this, I'm walking off. I'm done. And they wash their hands of it. I mean, I'm in the fight all the time. And by the end of the year, I'm exhausted because of all this stuff, even though I'm trying to be the voice of reason and not be attack. So we're going to have to do something here.
We are. So learn to play the game that's put in front of you, Mike. And unless you're going to figure out how to burn the structure down and redo it, you got to play the game as it's presented. That's why, people ask, well, how come you just, one guy said at town hall, all I ever hear is can't. I'm like, dude, you got to add up the math, brother. I went and talked to him afterwards, after it was over, we chatted for a bit on the side. I said, unless you have 11 and 21 and a governor that backs you up, and then a Supreme Court or, the court system in Alaska that always goes the other way, that's the way the game is. And yeah, I know it seems rigged right now, and in some ways it is rigged, but we better learn to play the game, because that's what's in front of us. That is the system. Yeah. Frustratingly slow at times, and it feels like it's rigged against us. And like I said, if you're more conservative, it kind of is. I mean, look at Twitter. I mean, we didn't even talk about the whole Twitter thing. We'll talk about it next week. But goodness, Mike, I'm seeing people pop back up my feed I haven't seen for a couple of years, because they were just suppressed. They didn't. All of a sudden, I've got like probably several dozen groups and people that I used to see stuff from before 2020 that are back. That's suppression, brother. And maybe it's legal because it's not a government entity doing it, it's a company. But oh my goodness, don't tell me it's not
Hey,
suppression.
it's the algorithm. It's the algorithm. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
right.
It had
Put
nothing
in
to
by
do with it.
people that were
Yeah,
doing it for a reason, right? So
exactly.
yeah, it is rigged. I get it. But that's, Mike, you fight the battle that's in front of you. You can't always shape the battlefield the way you want it. That's the battle we face. And this country is, they've taken over the media and the education system for decades, and they're changing our kids. So, I mean, you just sit back and do nothing, they're going to win. So you better fight, if you want your kids and grandkids to
Well,
still have an America, right?
and I think you said it. You said it. We have to remain agile because, again, no battle plan survives contact, right? I mean, first contact and all the battle plans change. You've got to remain agile. And so we have to stay agile. We have to stay informed. We have to stay positive, and we can't slide into that, the tribalism that we're seeing. I think the tribalism is what's really blowing a lot of the things for it. And quite honestly, final thought from this, we need to look inward. We as Alaskans need to look inward, and those who are Republicans especially need to look inward and look at their party as well, and say, what are you guys doing that needs to change?
Well, there's no doubt that the politicos, when you look at some of the things that happen, they're not necessarily aligned with a good portion of the party. So that's the reality of it. But I go back to the same thing. Mike Michelle says it all the time. It's like, well, are you doing anything about it? Are you stepping up and running? Are you getting involved in your district party? Are you going to meetings? Are you going to town halls? Are you volunteering and helping? Most people don't. And they'll give you the thing, well, I can't afford to. I have to work. You think I don't? I mean, you think this is not taking away money and time from my family? This is painful, Mike. You've done it too. There's nothing fun or easy about public service like this. It's usually painful, financially, time, the whole thing. But you hear it from people all the time. They complain, well, I can't afford to do that. Well, most people that are Republican, conservative, et cetera, have jobs, can't afford to do it. It's not there. I mean, if you can afford to do this, Mike, then you're actually getting benefit from it. That's what people always complain about. Oh, you're just getting something. Well, most of the time, you're not, right? Especially at the state level and below. I mean, you're getting very little compensation for what you could be doing, right, in the private sector.
Right.
So the question goes back to, Mike, if you don't like it, then get involved. We had some new people at the town hall the other night that were talking the same kind of thing. And I'm like, well, then get out and run. A lady at the school board, we had a school board meeting last night up here for the Matsu, and there was a lady there, a brand new baby, 2 months old. And I remember her last year when we were at that meeting, that building, having the town hall with all the Matsu legislators, and she was passionate. She got up there, and after the meeting was over, I looked and said, you need to run. You got kids, you're all fired up about this stuff, run for the school board. And she did. She won. And her husband last night was giving me the laser eyes. He's like, this is your fault. I said, hey, you guys have kids. You want to see change. This is what you do. You take time out of your life to get involved and make a difference. And it's painful. And he's like, yes, it is. But that's what it takes, Mike.
Yeah.
Somebody that actually complained about it, stepped up to run and won, and is making a difference.
That's
so,
engagement.
It's hard to listen to people complain when they will not engage.
So. Yeah, absolutely. All right, one final question. Why do you hate Christmas, man? I mean, you got all these Christmas lights strung up behind you and none of them are lit. And so I just got to know, why do you hate Christmas? Why?
Because it's like freaking 89 cents per kilowatt hour in Alaska for electricity, man. I only turn them on like limited times when the grandkids come over on a timer. I mean,
come on. It's a significant, come on. It's a sacrifice, man. We all have to make it. My son hung a bunch of
lights stay on all the time for the spirit. We're definitely into it, but it's I do not hate Christmas. Nor do I hate Christmas.
I know. All right. Well, I figure you probably got to go shovel yourself out. I'm working from home today because, my God, 16 inches of whatever out here. But we appreciate you coming on board, my friend. Next week, you're going to be back. We're going to be talking.
Yep. We'll see you next Wednesday. We'll talk about a few other things.
And then the following Wednesday, it's all Christmas all the time, baby. So put your elf on the shelf hat on and come on board. We're going to talk about Christmas memories, favorite Christmas music and movies and recipes. So 2 weeks from today, it'll be a fun show, not painful like this morning.
Well, if we're going to talk Christmas, I was going to tell you that last week or two, I wasn't going to do anything because, I don't want any politics in the happy season for me. I love Christmas. So if it's no politics and we're going to talk like, it's a Christmas story, movies and stuff, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm there.
2 weeks from today. It's all Christmas, all show long, 2 weeks from today.
In that
So,
case, I'll be there.
yeah, you better have a hat on. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
You
I'll
better
wear my Santa hat.
You wear your Santa hat. You wear it. All right. Mike Shower, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. Congratulations again, by the way, on your victory. And good luck, buddy. Better you than me. That's all I'm saying. Better you than me at this point. I appreciate you coming on board. Thanks for being part of the show today.
All right, Mike. See you guys. Cheers.
All right, folks. We are out of time for today. We ran long, but that's fine. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Tomorrow, Ben Carpenter in hour 1. On Friday, Jeff Knox in hour 1 from the Firearms Coalition. And then Chris Chang, Top Shot champion, in hour 2. And then Willie Waffle. It's a pretty full week this week. Next week, we're going to try and do all the politics that we can in one full week. And then the following is nothing but Christmas, baby. Because Christmas. We need to feel that Christmas spirit, don't we? All right, my friends, we are out of time. Like and share. If you're on Facebook, go over to YouTube real quick and subscribe and ring the bell on YouTube. Will you for me? Because you don't have to watch it on YouTube in the future, but I do need some help getting up 1,000 subscribers. There's the link right there. I just dropped it in the chat room. Go over there, hit subscribe, and ring the bell on YouTube, and then you can come right back to Facebook. Because YouTube's notifications, daily notifications, they are a lot more reliable than Facebook's. So go like us and follow us and do all that kind of stuff. Do all the YouTube-y stuff. All right, my friends, we will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Go start shoveling. You're going to need it. We'll see you then.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.